The universe is a cold, dark place. It is a vast, uncaring void where the strong do not just survive, they rule. And for decades, there was one name that was whispered in the darkest corners of the galaxy, a name that made kings tremble and warriors beg for the sweet release of death. That name was Frieza. He was not merely a warlord or a conqueror. He was a force of nature, a biological inevitability. To speak his name was to invite destruction. To look him in the eye was to forfeit your life. But was he born a monster or was he made one? Was his cruelty a product of his upbringing, or was it etched into the very double helix of his DNA? To understand the tyrant, we must look past the fear he instilled and examine the life he led, a life defined by absolute power, crippling paranoia, and a destiny that would eventually be shattered by the very monkeys he despised. This is the story of the Emperor of the Universe. This is the life of Frieza. Long before the Saiyans screamed their first battle cries, the Cold Force was already a blight upon the cosmos. Frieza was not born into a struggle for survival. He was born into the lap of absolute supremacy. His father, King Cold, was a mutant of an unknown, ancient race, a species with such immense latent power that they did not need to train. They did not need to learn martial arts or harness Kai through meditation. They simply were. And Frieza was the prodigy. From the moment he emerged from his shell, Frieza was an anomaly even among his own kind. While his father was powerful, Frieza was something else entirely. He was born with a power level that defied logic, a reservoir of energy so vast and volatile that his body could not naturally contain it without strain. This is a crucial detail often overlooked. Frieza's transformations were not power-ups in the traditional sense. They were limiters. He didn't transform to get stronger, he transformed to make himself weaker, to suppress the ocean of power that threatened to tear him apart if left unchecked. He spent his entire life walking around in a shell of his own making, a first form that was barely a fraction of his true potential, and yet, even in this suppressed state, he was stronger than 99% of the living beings in the known universe. Imagine the psychology of a child who never has to try, a child who can crush a planet's champion with a flick of his tail. Frieza was raised by King Cold to believe that he was the apex of existence. He was taught that empathy was a weakness, that mercy was a flaw, and that all other living beings were merely tools to be used, sold, or broken. He was the CEO of a galactic real estate empire, the Planet Trade Organization, inheriting a business built on genocide. He didn't conquer planets for glory, he did it for profit. He did it because he could. As Frieza took the reins of the empire from his father, he turned his gaze toward a specific race of warriors, the Saiyans. They were a barbaric, primitive people obsessed with fighting and growing stronger after every battle. To Frieza, they were useful dogs. They were efficient conquerors, clearing planets with a brutality that matched his own. King Vegeta, the ruler of the Saiyans, bowed and scraped before Frieza, offering his loyalty and his people's service. Frieza accepted it with a smirk, enjoying the sight of the proud warrior king on his knees. But deep down, in the recesses of his mind where the paranoia festered, Frieza began to worry. The Saiyans were tools, yes, but they were tools that sharpened themselves. Every time they returned from a mission, they were stronger. Every time they healed from a near-death experience, their power spiked. It was a biological trait called the Zenkai, and Frieza, with his keen intellect, noticed the pattern. Individually, they were insects. Even their elites, like Nappa and the young Prince Vegeta, were nothing compared to him. But together, if they united, if they continued to evolve, and then there was the legend, the Super Saiyan. A myth passed down through Saiyan folklore about a warrior who would appear once every 1,000 years, possessing power that could rival the gods. Frieza scoffed at it outwardly, mocking the monkeys and their fairy tales. But fear is a funny thing, it doesn't need to be rational to be real. The idea that a lowly creature could surpass him was an insult to his very existence. In age 737, the paranoia won. Frieza decided to liquidate his assets. He recalled all Saiyans to Planet Vegeta, a summons that most obeyed without question. He sat in his hoverchair high above the atmosphere of the Red Planet, watching the ships arrive. He didn't feel guilt, he didn't feel conflict. He felt like a man taking out the trash. When the renegade Saiyan Bardock launched his desperate one-man rebellion, fighting through hundreds of Frieza's soldiers to reach the flagship, Frieza decided it was time to end the charade. He emerged from his ship, a small, horned figure against the backdrop of space. Bardock screamed his defiance, launching his final spirit cannon, a ball of energy containing the hopes of his entire race. Frieza didn't even leave his chair. He raised a single finger. A tiny, supernova-like sphere of energy formed at the tip. With a laugh that chilled the vacuum of space, he flicked it forward. The supernova consumed Bardock. It consumed the soldiers Frieza hadn't bothered to move out of the way, and it consumed Planet Vegeta. As the planet crumbled and exploded into cosmic dust, Frieza watched with the glee of a child burning ants with a magnifying glass. "Look at the pretty fireworks," he laughed. In that moment, he believed he had secured his rule forever. He had extinguished the threat. He had erased the history of the one race that could challenge him. He kept a few pets. Of course, the young Prince Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz, keeping them under his thumb, telling them a lie about a meteor, enjoying the irony of the prince serving the destroyer of his own kingdom. For decades, Frieza ruled unopposed. He expanded his empire, destroyed civilizations, and grew comfortable in his supremacy. He was the emperor, the lord of the galaxy, but comfort breeds complacency. Years later, a report came to him through the scouter of his subordinate Raditz. A conversation on a backwater planet called Earth. The mention of Dragon Balls, mystical orbs that could grant any wish, immortality. For being like Frieza who already had everything, death was the only enemy left. Time was the only thief he couldn't execute. The concept of eternal life intoxicated him. He immediately set a course for Planet Namek, the origin of these Dragon Balls. He didn't know it yet, but he was flying toward his own doom. He was flying toward the one thing he thought he had destroyed, the Saiyan spirit. The invasion of Namek was supposed to be routine. Land, terrorize the locals, gather the balls, make the wish, and leave a dead world in his wake. Frieza brought his elites Dodoria and Zarbon expecting little resistance, but Namek proved to be a quagmire of frustration. First, there was Vegeta. The prince he had enslaved had gone rogue, stealing Frieza's Dragon Balls and picking off his men one by one. Then there were the Earthlings Kakarot's son and the bald monk interfering with his collection. Frieza found himself in a position he loathed. He was being inconvenienced. He watched as his men fell. Dodoria dead, Zarbon dead. Even the Ginyu Force, his flamboyant but undeniably effective special forces, were dismantled by a Saiyan who had arrived late to the party. Frieza remained on his ship for most of this, his rage simmering like a pot about to boil over. He was forced to step out to dirty his own hands. When he finally confronted Vegeta, Gohan, and Krillin, he decided to show them the true depth of their folly. He revealed the truth about his forms. "I have a power level of 530,000, he stated calmly. A number so astronomically high compared to anything they had seen that it felt like a heavy weight dropping on their chests. The battle that followed was a masterclass in despair. Frieza transformed into his second form, a hulking giant that resembled his father. He impaled Krillin on his horns, torturing the human just to hear him scream, enjoying the terror in the child Gohan's eyes. He was playing with his food. When Piccolo arrived, fused with the Namekian warrior Nail, and actually managed to match him, Frieza wasn't afraid. He was annoyed. He transformed again. His third form, a grotesque, elongated alien monstrosity, unleashed a barrage of finger beams that brought Piccolo to his knees. But Frieza was a showman. He wanted them to know absolute hopelessness before they died. He decided to reveal his true form. The shell cracked and shattered. The hulking muscles and grotesque features receded. What emerged was small, sleek, and smooth. His final form, it looked innocent, almost fragile compared to the monsters that came before, but the energy radiating from it was suffocating. This was Frieza as he was born. This was the face of death. He killed Dend first, cutting off their healing support. Then he turned his attention to Vegeta. The Prince of Saiyans poured everything he had into a final attack, his pride screaming for vengeance. Frieza didn't even dodge. He kicked the blast away. He beat Vegeta not with technique, but with humiliating brutality. He broke his spirit before he broke his body. As Goku arrived, Vegeta, broken and dying, cried. He begged Kakarot to put aside his mercy and become a cold-blooded Saiyan. He revealed the truth of Planet Vegeta's destruction with his dying breath. Frieza killed Vegeta with a single death beam through the heart. He silenced the past. Now he faced the future. The battle between Goku and Frieza is perhaps the most pivotal conflict in the history of the universe. It was not just a clash of fists, it was a clash of ideologies. Frieza fought for dominance, for the right of the strong to rule the weak. Goku fought for life, for the potential of others to grow. At first, Frieza toyed with Goku. He used less than 50% of his power, and even then he was dominating. He couldn't conceive that this low-class warrior was keeping up. Goku used the Kaioken, pushing his body to the breaking point, but Frieza simply ramped up his power. He stopped the Kamehameha with one hand. He was immutable. When Goku unleashed the Spirit Bomb, a massive sphere of energy drawn from the life of the planet and the surrounding star system, Frieza felt fear for the first time. He tried to hold it back, his hands burning, his eyes widening as the crushing weight of the universe bore down on him. The explosion was cataclysmic. Frieza was swallowed by the light. The Z-Fighters celebrated. They thought the nightmare was over. But Frieza does not die so easily. He emerged from the crater battered, one eye swollen shut, the tip of his tail severed. He was injured, yes, but more than that, he was furious. How dare these insects make him bleed? In a moment of pure spite, he fired a beam of energy into Piccolo's chest. Then, he turned his gaze to Krillin. He lifted the human into the air with telekinesis. "Help me, Goku," Krillin screamed. Frieza clenched his fist. The explosion was instant. Krillin was gone. "Pop goes the weasel," Frieza sneered. It was the mistake that cost him everything. Frieza had spent his life fearing the Super Saiyan, hunting it down to destroy it. But by pushing Goku past the brink of despair, he created the very thing he feared. The sky darkened. Lightning struck the ground. Goku's rage overflowed and his hair turned gold. His eyes turned teal. Frieza looked on in confusion, then horror. The Saiyan's power had skyrocketed. He wasn't just stronger, he was different. The look in Goku's eyes wasn't the look of a martial artist enjoying a fight. It was the look of a judge delivering a death sentence. "I am the hope of the universe," Goku declared. "I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace. I am the Super Saiyan Son Goku." For the first time in his life, Frieza was the underdog. His attacks were brushed aside. His speed was matched. His pride was shattered with every punch to the face. Desperate, Frieza did the unthinkable. He decided that if he couldn't win, no one would. He launched a ball of energy into the core of Planet Namek. 5 minutes, he laughed. "This planet will explode in 5 minutes." He powered up to 100%, his body bulking up, muscles swelling to grotesque proportions. He fought with everything he had. He threw energy discs, he fired blasts that could level solar systems, he tackled Goku through islands, but it wasn't enough. The Super Saiyan was simply better. Frieza's stamina began to fail, his power dropped. Goku, seeing that the Emperor was running on fumes, did something that hurt Frieza more than any punch. He quit. He looked at Frieza with pity and turned his back. "I'm satisfied," Goku said. "Your pride is in tatters." Frieza snapped. He launched 2 homing energy discs, a desperate technique to slice Goku apart, but in his blind rage he lost track of them. As Goku shouted a warning, Frieza turned too late. His own attack sliced through his torso, cutting him in half. The Emperor of the Universe lay in the dirt, a broken torso, bleeding out on a dying planet. And then the ultimate humiliation. He begged. He begged the monkey for mercy. "Please help me," and Goku gave it to him. He gave him some energy. Frieza couldn't understand it. He hated it. As Goku flew away, Frieza used that borrowed energy to fire one last pathetic blast at the Saiyan's back. "You must die by my hand," he screamed. Goku's counterattack was decisive. An angry Kamehameha slammed Frieza into the crust of the planet. Moments later, Namek exploded, but fate is cruel. Frieza drifted through the debris of the exploded planet, his body ravaged, missing limbs, half his face gone, clinging to life through sheer hatred. He floated in the vacuum, freezing, dying, waiting. His father found him. King Cold's ship collected the remains. The scientists of the Cold Force went to work. They couldn't heal him naturally, so they rebuilt him. Metal replaced flesh. Cybernetics replaced organs. He became Mecha Frieza. When he woke up, he felt stronger. The metal limbs were cold, but his rage burned hotter than ever. He didn't want to rule the universe anymore. He wanted Earth. He wanted to kill Goku's friends, burn his planet to ash, and make the Saiyan watch before killing him. He traveled to Earth with his father, confident in his victory. He landed in the wastelands, ready to begin the slaughter, but Goku wasn't there. Instead, a boy stood in his way, a boy with purple hair and a sword. Frieza laughed. Who was this child? He ordered his men to kill him. The boy killed them in the blink of an eye. Then the boy did something that made Frieza's blood run cold. He transformed. The golden hair, the teal eyes, another Super Saiyan. "Impossible," Frieza screamed. "Those eyes, the same eyes as him." Panic set in. Frieza fired a massive energy ball, a planet killer. The boy caught it with one hand. Frieza fired another, blasting the Earth, detonating the blast midair to create a distraction. But the boy appeared above him. The sword came down. It happened in an instant. Frieza, the Emperor, the tyrant, the strongest being in the universe, was sliced in half vertically. His eyes widened in shock. Before his brain could process his death, the sword moved again, dicing him into pieces. The boy, future Trunks, extended a hand and fired a blast of energy, vaporizing the pieces of Frieza into nothingness. There was no grand speech. There was no final battle that shook the stars. Frieza died like he had lived, arrogant, presumptuous, and ultimately alone. His father, King Cold, attempted to bargain with the boy only to be killed moments later. The Cold lineage ended there in the dust of a planet they deemed insignificant. Frieza's life was a tragedy of ego. He was gifted with everything, power, status, and empire, but he lacked the one thing that made his enemies strong, the drive to overcome limits. He believed he was the ceiling of the universe, and when he finally met someone who broke through that ceiling, he couldn't adapt. He couldn't learn, he could only hate. In the end, Frieza was not defeated because he was weak. He was defeated because he was stagnant. He was a relic of an old universe where birthright dictated strength. He was swept away by the tide of a new era, an era of warriors who earned their power through blood, sweat, and the will to protect. Frieza's body was gone, his empire crumbled, his legacy reduced to a cautionary tale. He spent the next decade in Earth's hell, cocooned in a tree, forced to watch teddy bears and fairies dance around him, a torment designed specifically for a man who thrived on suffering. It was a fitting end for the tyrant. But his shadow would loom over the Z-Fighters forever. He was the catalyst. He was the reason Goku became a Super Saiyan. He was the reason Vegeta came to Earth. He was the nightmare that forged the universe's greatest defenders. In a twisted way, without Frieza, there would be no heroes. The universe is a cold, dark place, and for a long time, Frieza was the coldest thing in it. But even the deepest freeze must eventually thaw under the heat of a burning golden light. This was the life and the death of Lord Frieza.